Do you remember the day you were born?
No, but I remember when the earth would open and I crawled out of hell.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to discuss this administration's massive cover-up of the Epstein files in order to conceal President Trump's involvement. This cover-up reached its apex last month when Attorney General Pam Bondi falsely testified under oath before the House Judiciary Committee. The Attorney General testified, quote, "There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that," unquote. This is a lie. In the 3 million or so documents that the DOJ has disclosed to Congress under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, there is credible evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. And that, of course, excludes the nearly 3 million pages that the DOJ is refusing to turn over. Donald Trump is mentioned thousands of times in the Epstein files. There are multiple allegations that he sexually assaulted young girls. But I want to focus on one victim's allegations that the FBI unquestionably found to be credible. The DOJ tried to hide reports of 3 of the 4 interviews that this victim gave to the FBI, but pressure from the media and Congress forced them to disclose them. And now we know why. She credibly accuses Donald Trump of sexually assaulting her when she was between 13 and 15. In each of her interviews, this victim recited the same account of her interaction with Donald Trump. On August 7th, 2019, she explained that she was between 13 and 15 when she was left alone with Donald Trump, who, quote, mentioned something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Trump unzipped his pants and put her head down, quote, down to his penis, bit the S out of it. Trump struck the victim and said words to the effect of, "Get this little B the hell out of here." The victim advised that she bit Trump's penis because he disgusted her. She provided some additional details in the next interview 2 weeks later, and then a month later, she met again with the FBI and asked, quote, what the point would be of providing the information at this point in her life when there was a strong possibility nothing could be done about it. She didn't speak to the FBI again. But the FBI certainly found her story credible. In a 21-page PowerPoint presentation that the FBI made to prosecutors, they included this victim's testimony. They would not have done so if they did not find the evidence credible, which means that Attorney General Bondi lied when she stated under oath that there is no evidence that Donald Trump committed a crime. But we're just scratching the surface, because the Epstein files also reveal that Donald Trump has made false statements over the past quarter century about Jeffrey Epstein. We know in 2002 he called him a terrific guy and said, quote, "It is even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." In a birthday card, 2003, that Donald Trump gave to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday, Donald wrote for himself that we have certain things in common, Jeffrey. Enigmas never aged. Have you noticed that? A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. And may every day be another wonderful secret. But in that same year, Palm Beach County opened an investigation into Epstein that eventually was turned over to the FBI. The investigation became public in 2006, and the Palm Beach County police chief received a call quickly after from Donald Trump, where Trump told him, "Thank goodness you're stopping him. Everyone has known he's been doing this." What innocent person calls the police chief about an investigation upon just learning about it? The recent documents also show that Jeffrey Epstein emailed Ghislaine Maxwell and said, quote, "I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Redacted victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned." Trump also denied that he ever went on Epstein's plane. But of course, the Southern District of New York, said that he was on his plane 8 times, often with young women. The reason why this matters is because we don't have half of the Epstein files. And if the Attorney General is covering this up in such a degree that she is redacting things from Congress, that she then, redacting things from the public that she then shows to Congress, what else is she covering up? And I would just show that this document here was redacted to the public, it was unredacted to Congress, and it completely disputes everything that Donald Trump has said about Jeffrey Epstein, about what he knew about the allegations, about his disgusting behavior, about whether he'd ever been to Epstein's house, saying, I may have been there with my wife. Asked if any young girls were there. No. He may have had children of guests, but that's it. Well, we know that's not the case. Now, why is this important? Because if the Attorney General is covering up this information that she then reveals to Congress, what else is she covering up about Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files? I yield back.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was
that
the
we
ethical
have.
violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
So my specific question is that there was a report that came out in February from CNN that the FBI had let go or fired dozens of agents and staff members from a counterintelligence unit tasked with monitoring Iran. And apparently the reason, at least reported in the press, was that these individuals had been involved in the investigation of classified document handling from President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and that this was the reason why they were summarily let go. First of all, are you aware of those firings, and do you concur with the rationale or reason for those firings?
I'm aware of that, and I know there's a pendency of litigation, so I'm not able to comment on them.
Did you yourself order those firings?
The FBI, every time there is someone who violates our code of conduct or ethical standard, conducts an internal investigation with the careers there, and they present a decision point to me. The Iranian Threat Mission Center has seen an increase of 43% in arrests for Iranian spy actors. So the Iranian Threat Mission Center has never been stronger.
So I'm asking about whether those people were fired because they were involved in the investigation of the document handling by President Trump, not for any behavior issues. Is that your understanding as well?
Again, ma'am, I can't comment on them because those are in pending litigation.
I guess I'm a little stymied here, Director, because it feels as though literally when there was a possible pending war, I'm outside of this intelligence circle in many ways, even though I serve on the Intelligence Committee. You collectively must have been aware when these firings happened that there was a meaningful chance that the U.S. might be engaged with a war in Iran. And having these very expert, super qualified folks summarily dismissed at this time, it just feels like an odd choice in timing. Were you aware at the time that this was going down, that this may end up weakening the mission and the readiness of that group?
The mission, as I stated, has never been stronger when you see a 43% increase in counterintelligence arrests and 21% increase in cyber arrests against the Iranian Threat Mission Center. My focus is on providing the American people the strongest FBI as possible. I don't work on timelines. I work on evidence that's presented to me.
I guess my concern is that it feels as though, and I very much honor the tone and tenor of this hearing, that this is about making sure that that we depoliticize what is the most important thing that we all do, which is keep us safe. And it feels as though this issue is a political issue. And I just am worried that we are taking really good, really qualified people and picking fights with one another across party lines, rather than making sure that we protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe.
Director Patel, you had a question from Dr. Jackson about the shutdown we're in now with Homeland Security, and I believe you said that this would be harmful to America because of the threat from Iran. Is that correct? Do I recall that correctly?
Generally, yes, sir.
How many days before we invaded Iran did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. There are internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced, as I've highlighted, a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone, and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards.
Was the ethical violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
With stars that they can grab women by the.
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
She's accusing me of rape. A woman that I have no idea who she is. It came out of the blue. She's accusing me of rape, of raping her. The worst thing you can do, the worst charge, and you know it's not true too. You're a political operative also. You're a disgrace. But she's accusing me, and so are you, of rape, and it never took place. And I will tell you, I made that statement, and I said, while it's politically incorrect, she's not my type, and that's 100% true. She's not my type.
There's this ridiculous situation that we're doing right. It's a big fat hoax. She's a liar and she's a sick person, in my opinion, really sick. Moved on her and I failed. I'll admit it. Whoa. I did try and fuck her. She was married.
That's huge news, Sarah.
No, Nancy. Yeah. No, this was marriages, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where they have some nice furniture. I took out furniture. I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there. And she was married. Then all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Pull the ham.
Hello, how are you?
This is not a play. This is real life, and you can get out. Christine, call me if you need me. Or my cane.
Please get the money.
Couldn't even sneak off somewhere.
Justina wasn't what it looked like.
There it goes.
We were rehearsing Joan of Arc.
I don't remember Joan of Arc kissing anybody. You show me in here where Joan of Arc kisses somebody, then we have no problems.
The question is, why did they change that? What you're looking at is the Cosby Show. In the original version, you see they're talking about Joan of Arc. In the streaming version, it's altered. My question is, why take that out? Why go through the trouble of something that's already pre-taped, pre-recorded, pre-edited? For what reason? Obviously, there's a reason for that, and the question is, how many things do they do that to? They're going to do it to the Cosby Show. You think they ain't going to do it to news? You think they're not going to do it to historical events? Why take the manpower? Why devote that energy to changing something as so simplistic as the Cosby Show?
Nintendo recently released a new Pokemon game called Pokopia. Ironically enough, the game sees a world devoid of humans where you, as a Pokemon, befriend and help other Pokemon build a better world and try to find out what happened to all the humans. No spoilers here, but the game has been a massive critical and financial success and offers a laid-back, cozy gaming experience to help de-stress from the depressing events of the world. So naturally, Trump had to sick himself on it and try to ruin its childlike wonder. Because the White House took the game's logo and changed it to say, "Make America Great Again." Yeah, in classic MAGA fashion, nothing in this world is sacred, but also in classic MAGA fashion, thankfully, it instantly backfired and blew up in their face. First, via Nintendo and the Pokemon Company themselves, which are notoriously litigious and protective of their beloved intellectual property. Pokemon Company International on Thursday pushed back against the White House's repeated use of its intellectual property after the administration published a Make America Great Again meme on social media that used an image from its latest game with recognizable characters like Pikachu and Magikarp. Quote, "We are aware of recent social content that includes imagery associated with our brand," a company spokeswoman said in a statement. "We were not involved in its creation or distribution, and no permission was granted for the use of our intellectual property. Our mission is to bring the world together, and that mission is not affiliated with any political viewpoint or agenda." But the internet writ large, however, used far less lawyer speak and took the opportunity to meme the White House's posts into oblivion, and I've bookmarked some of the best ones, like Trump is a PDF file, release the full Epstein files, Donald Trump is a PDF file starting a war as a distraction, fuck ICE. Mind you, again, these are all on Twitter in the thread response to the White House's post. They keep going, stop protecting PDF files, Nintendo's lawyers will love this, go fuck yourself, let's stop killing innocent people on domestic and foreign soil, Trump, is an R word. Trump's mentioned 38,000 times in the Epstein files. Fuck you, Trump, a classic oldie but a goodie. Make the White House not tweet again. As well as Send Barron, another infamous meme that's been blowing up in the Trump administration's face, which we made a video about the other day. Eat my ass, my culture is not your costume. And another variation of a famous meme of Donald Trump being stressed over bomb kids or F kids, and he decides to pick both. This is actually a version of MAGA that I haven't heard yet. Molesting adolescent girls allowed. Someone just saying, shut your bitch ass up and make America gay again. Now, that would already be bad enough, but as you probably have likely heard because Steve just made a video about it, this is coming hot off the heels of another incident where the White House's shitpost went so viral it actually got called out on the mainstream media.
Breaking news on one of Donald Trump's legal cases. Trump's lawyers say the former president has been unable to get a bond for the $464 million fraud judgment against him in that civil fraud case. Trump's lawyers write in a recent filing here that getting the judgment's full amount in a bond is a practical impossibility. They say they have tried to approach about 30 surety companies through 4 separate brokers and cannot get a bond for this amount. So what does that mean?
That says he doesn't have the collateral, so a company is like, no, we're not going to do it. And what it means, unless the appellate court, in New York is called the appellate division, grants him a stay until after the appeal is done to pay, Attorney General James has said she's going to go into court, and so he has until March 25th, and she's going to request that his assets start being seized.
Mr. Trump, the New York Supreme Court ordered you pay a penalty of $354,868,768.
I deny everything.
Well, Mr. Denial, you and your company engaged in illegal acts to defraud banks and insurance companies by lying about the true value of your assets to falsely obtain profits and savings in business over a decade. Auga, right? For every day you haven't paid, there's $112,000 in post-judgment interest. So carry that out. About $100 million in interest already. And you already owe E. Jean Carroll $88.3 million for that defamation lawsuit.
I got a bond to cover that one.
Oh, okay. We'll take that off today's tally. Then there's the $9,026,048 in penalties against 2 of your sons and another company executive. So that brings today's total to $464 million. Will that be cash or credit?
I can't pay this and no one will give me a bond.
If you don't pay by Monday, we may have to start seizing assets.
What else can I do?
You could always file for bankruptcy.
But my entire persona is built around being a great businessman. Can't I just have a do-over?
I don't know about in real life, but we can in this video.
Come here. Did Santa come?
I don't care. I don't care, Mom.
Why?
I don't care. I don't care.
Let's deal with the situation where we are, where this president and his chicken hawk cabinet have led us to the brink of war with Iran. I served in the war in Iraq at the height of the war in 2005, a war that took over 4,000 of my brothers and sisters in uniforms' lives. The American people need to understand that this war with Iran would be far more devastating, far more costly than anything that we ever saw in Iraq. It would take many more lives. It would exacerbate the refugee crisis, and it wouldn't be just contained within Iran. This would turn into a regional war. This is why it's so important that every one of us, every single American, stand up and say, no war with Iran. We've got to be clear-eyed about the situation that we are in, that inching closer, actually more than inching, speeding towards an all-out war with Iran would make the wars that we've seen in Iraq and in Afghanistan look like a picnic. It will be far more costly in lives, and American taxpayer dollars, and all towards accomplishing what goal, what objective? I think that's really at the crux of this decision that President Trump made.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
In the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime. Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information
it is precisely
that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing where, as you noted in your opening testimony, quote, you represent the IC's assessment of threats. You are here to represent the IC's assessment of threats. That's a quote from your own opening statement. And so my question is, as you're here to present the IC's assessment of threats, was it the assessment of the intelligence community that, as the White House claimed on March 1st, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
Once again, Senator, the intelligence community has provided the inputs that make up this annual threat assessment.
You won't answer the question.
It is the nature of the imminent threat that the president has to make that determination based on a collection and volume of information and intelligence that he is provided with.
You're here to be timely, objective, and independent of political considerations.
Exactly what I'm doing.
No, you're evading a question because to provide a candid response to the committee would contradict a statement from the White House. That opening statement, as submitted to the committee in advance of this hearing, stated that as a result of last summer's airstrikes, quote, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And is that in fact the assessment of the intelligence community?
Yes.
So the assessment of the intelligence community is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated by last summer's airstrikes.
Yes.
And the opening statement you submitted to the committee last night also stated, quote, there has been no effort since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability, end quote, correct?
That's right.
And that's the assessment of the intelligence community.
Yes.
The White House stated on March 1st of this year that this war was launched and was, quote, a military campaign to eliminate the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, end quote. That's a statement from the White House. Quote, the imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime.
That's exactly what Trump did. He conducted and committed an act of war without congressional authority, seriously escalating the situation with Iran. And so now we're at a point of it's not a matter of, well, are we going to have a war with Iran? We are in a war with Iran right now. So the real issue is, are we going to allow this war to continue to escalate? And if so, for how long? And to achieve what objective?
As for back home in Australia, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has welcomed the US intervention in Iran and is calling for Australian citizens in the region to take cover or to leave if they can safely do so. In a statement he wrote, Australia stands with the brave people of Iran in their struggle against oppression. For decades, the Iranian regime has been a destabilising force through its ballistic missile and nuclear programs, support for armed proxies and brutal acts of violence and intimidation. We support the United States acting to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon and to prevent Iran continuing to threaten international peace and security. The Prime Minister will hold a National Security Committee cabinet meeting this morning. Opposition leader Angus Taylor has also posted a statement to social media saying the theocratic Iranian regime is authoritarian, anti-Semitic and abhorrent. It wants nuclear weapons, seeks the destruction of Israel, has encouraged terrorism through its proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah and the Houthis, and has supplied weapons to Russia. It is also responsible for acts of foreign interference in Australia and igniting anti-Semitism.
Who is like unto God? Who is like unto God? Who is like unto God? Who is like unto God?
Along the border, including the Al-Marj outpost opposite Merkabah, and carried out drone strikes on the Al-Raheb site near Aitar al-Shab. Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and a military. You've probably all seen the footage of the airstrike that took place in Sur district as we were reporting on the destruction of a bridge. We've been treated in hospital for our injuries. I had a shrapnel wound in my arm, deeply embedded in the muscle here. That's been taken out, and here it is in this pot here. But what I do want to say is that this was a deliberate, targeted attack on journalists. There's no mistake about it. This was an Israeli precision strike from a fighter jet. What we were doing was we were reporting on the attacks on bridges, which is effectively severing South Lebanon from the rest of the country. 1 million people now internally displaced. This is the real story. It's not about us coming under attack as journalists. What we're seeing now and what we were reporting on is this plan for Israel to ethnically cleanse the south of Lebanon. This is without doubt an attack. This is on the scale or bigger than the scale of the Nakba. This is the forced displacement of 1 million people, which remains a war crime. And also we have to say that attacking journalists is a war crime. Attacking civilian infrastructure is a war crime. But if they think that they're going to silence us, if they think that we're going to stay out of the field, they're very, very much mistaken.
The D.C. Appeals Court has ruled that former President Trump does not enjoy presidential immunity that would shield him from the federal election subversion case. Now, it has taken about a month to get to this decision, but it was pretty clear during the oral arguments in early January that judges appeared unlikely to agree with Trump's lawyers that he should be shielded by presidential immunity because some of the things he allegedly did occurred while he was still president. His lawyers face really tough questions about whether there were any limitations on their theory of executive power. This is a 3-judge panel, so this is an appeals court. They said, quote, "For the purpose of this criminal case, former President Trump has become Citizen Trump with all of the defenses of any other criminal defendant. But any executive immunity that may have protected him while he served as president no longer protects him against this prosecution."
Be nice. I'm finding it. It take you that long to find it?
It does.
It does.
War is hell, but we don't mind.
War is hell, but we don't mind.
Uncle Sam's been awful kind.
Uncle Sam's been awful kind.
See the world, they always said.
See the world, they always said.
But all I see is the undead.
All I see is the undead.
We are not afraid to die.
We are not afraid to die.
Once BlackRock's profits are sky high.
BlackRock's profits are sky high.
To be a real American.
To be a real American.
You must die for Israel.
You must die for Israel.
Hey, guys, what is this shit? I don't take this shit, man. Stop it.
They want your soul, so don't resist.
Want your soul, so don't resist.
There's no such thing as the Epstein list.
No such thing as the Epstein list.
I don't know why it's so hard to find good, reliable workers these days. Okay, well, have you raised the minimum wage at all? No, it's $10 an hour like everywhere else. All right, well, are you offering full-time positions? No, full-time is only available for our management positions. Okay, well, what are your requirements to getting into a management position? Well, you either need to be with the company for at least 3+ years, or you have to have multiple college degrees. Okay, so if you're only doing part-time for entry-level employees, are you flexible with people's schedules so that they can get a second job? Absolutely not. You need full-time availability just in case we need you. Okay, well, what are your policies when somebody calls in sick or has an emergency? Well, no matter how long you're calling out sick, you need to have a doctor's note, and as far as any other type of emergency, you're not allowed to leave until you find coverage for your shift. Okay, what about any type of benefits? Health insurance? Benefits are only available for our full-time employees. Okay, fine. Let's recap. So crack wages, only part-time positions available, but you expect all your employees to have full-time availability. No medical benefits, but if someone calls out sick, you expect them to go break their bank and get you a piece of paper that says that they're sick. And in a family emergency, you really expect them to drop everything and find coverage. And you wonder why people don't want to work for you.
With the cost of living crisis hitting everyone, it's made a whole lot worse by the fact that everywhere you turn, you're being ripped off by your fellow countrymen. Back in the 1980s, my grandfather was a mechanic for Toyota, and he taught me all the ways a mechanic could easily trick you. Just recently, for example, I needed to buy a new air filter for my car, for the cabin. They wanted to charge me $800. I bought one online, fitted it myself for $44. But it's not just the mechanics that are trying to rip you off. Supermarkets are doing it in a whole variety of ways. The trick you all know about is supermarkets raising the price just for a week or two and then lowering it slightly and saying it's on sale, even though the on sale price is way higher than the price that product was trading at for many, many years. And now in fruit and veg, weights aren't available for a particular item. Scales aren't anywhere for you to weigh the fruit, and they're charging you not by kilo or per kilo, but by item, charging you a price per cauliflower or a price per apple. This is a way that you're being ripped off. What about this? Charging you more for a product that weighs less than it weighed before. Did you know a Cadbury Dairy Milk chocolate block back in 2008 was 250 grams, and it used to trade for $3. Now it's 180 grams and you buy it for $8. That's 7.5% annual inflation, which is double the inflation rate in Australia. And if you think supermarkets are doing it, they're not the only ones. What about at the petrol station? We know that war has broken out in the Middle East, and within 48 hours, petrol prices in Australia went up, even though the tanks in the petrol station hadn't taken a new delivery of fuel. It was the same fuel that was there a week ago. In fact, it takes 3 weeks for oil prices, wholesale oil prices, to be passed through to retail petrol prices, and yet they raised the price in just 48 hours. Of course, when oil prices ease, will they drop the price within 48 hours? Absolutely not. They'll take 2 to 3 weeks. They actually have a name for that strategy. It's called rockets and feathers. Prices go up by the rocket and they drop back down like a feather. But it's not just petrol stations. Try this one with your builder. They've got a name for their strategy. It's called up by thousands, down by hundreds. If you're building right now, ask your builder to install an additional tap somewhere on the property. They'll charge you an extra $500. Then tell them you don't want that tap anymore. They'll discount it by $100, keeping the $400 difference. And what about airlines? What about Qantas charging you for flights that never existed? Even worse than that, during COVID, when they were unable to fly, did they give you a refund for the cancelled flights? Absolutely not. They gave you a credit, but not a credit that you could use whenever you wanted. It had an expiry date attached. They're now paying a fine for that. And guess what? It doesn't stop there. It's not just mechanics and supermarkets and petrol stations and airlines and builders. There's more. Electricity providers, they won't tell you when they've got a cheaper offer. You have to ring up and find out yourself. Why should the onus be on you to find a cheaper price? Why shouldn't the onus be on the corporate to tell you that there's a cheaper price? And when you ring up and discover that there's actually a cheaper price, do they make it easy for you to work out how much cheaper it is? No, they don't. What they do is they tell you that the new plan is cheaper than the average, but of course the average has nothing to do with what you were paying. And they trick you to staying on a more expensive plan. And have you noticed that every pub, cafe and restaurant charges you to use your own money, and they charge you a percentage, be it 1% or 2% of whatever you pay, even though the charge to them, the merchant fee, is a fraction of that amount? That's illegal, but they're doing it all the time. Unless we stand up and complain about it, nothing will change. And it's no better online. You go online, you see a price that you like, you accept that price, and off you go to the payment page, and guess what? The price is different. I'm not even talking about the additional charges for cleaning and ticket fees and booking fees and all that sort of stuff. I'm just saying the price is different when you pay to what you saw advertised on their main page. Again, illegal behaviour. The cost of living crisis is real and Australians are paying a fortune, but it's made worse by the fact that we're being ripped off by our fellow Aussies. I don't know how we stop it, but it has to change.
هسه عنا خطوة. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
The president. I guess I have to do it myself. I know it's not.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر ولله الحمد. Dear brothers and sisters, keep calm a little bit. It is a Eid. It is a joyful day.
Some 3 years ago, we stood in this very place with the Prime Minister advocating for the yes referendum in regards to our First Nations people, who we acknowledge as the rightful historical custodians of this land. Little did we know the very next day our lives would be forever changed. The same First Nation people of Palestine also sought recognition and legitimacy. The doors of hell had opened and a genocide was to evolve in front of our mobile phone screens. In response to the positions of the state and federal governments in defending Israel's actions, we as a collective community decided to actively disengage from any contact or communication with both government, police and the wider Australian community. And I, for one, was all for it. The community had rightfully had enough, I felt. However, in retrospect, this isolationist and non-engagement policy did serve an initial purpose for our ummah. However, after one federal election and the continuing war in the Middle East, we must ask ourselves, how effective has this engagement really been? We have seen the dramatic rise of the far-right anti-immigration agenda so proudly represented by the likes of Pauline Hanson and the certain elements of the coalition party. We have seen the extreme rise in Islamophobia and targeted attacks on the Muslim community, both in the media and in the public. This very mosque has had 4 threats already. We have seen the withering away of our freedoms, and yet, worse still, the Israeli genocide in Gaza, and now threatening to engulf the whole Middle East, continues unabated. Yet the Australian Muslim community has had zero impact on the federal election process or the framing of policy and legislation, and the dramatic rise in Islamophobic attacks. In essence, we have been unable to better lobby and advocate to government in regards to policy and legislation that directly impacts our community. We as Australian Muslims need to have these deep intellectual discussions in regards to how we navigate the path of engaging political leadership, the media and the wider Australian public. We can neither totally disengage, nor can we invite politicians to our place of worship. Respect the place you're in, please. This is a mosque.
Senator Maladiri and the other members of the caucus, First Nations caucus, as you call yourselves, I do understand and respect, and you're asking for that respect, and, you know, as Australians. All we do, or One Nation does, and the rest of Australian people, is we're wanting the same respect back. The respect back that we are still part of this nation, that we are people that have born here, people that have migrated here, that we also want acknowledgement and respect to the nation. To constantly be told this is not your land, Aboriginal land always was, always will be. You are disenfranchising me and many other Australians. The welcome to country was not culture or tradition. It was actually introduced into Australia by Ernie Dingo in the 70s in relation to New Zealand having the haka. Welcome to country has not been a tradition of this parliament and has only just been introduced in the last few years. This has not been a stunt that I pulled just this week. I have turned my back on it for the past 3 years. I am acknowledging the Australian people who voted against the voice. They don't want this division that's happening in our country. They are fed up with welcome to country. They want to see an end to it. To arrive on a plane in every state across this nation, or, you know, to get a welcome to country, people don't want that. They don't want this division. We have seen land handed back, and we've seen Australians stopped from going to certain places in this country because they're not welcomed there. This is their land. They can't go to Mount Warning, the Grampian Mountains. They can't go to certain parts. They can't do the things that every Australian should be entitled to. We are treated totally different in many areas. I understand the demise of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I've visited their communities. I've spoken to them. You haven't got the support of welcome to country from every Aboriginal. A lot of them out there have contacted me and said, we are over it as well. We don't want this division in our nation. So it's the stance that I've taken to speak up on behalf of those Australian people that don't want this division. I don't want to have to do this. But the whole fact is that I am actually speaking up on behalf because people don't know how else to protest over this. It's dividing us as a nation, as a people. Everything that I've said right from the very beginning I ever came into Parliament in 1996, my first statement was equality for all Australians. But we're being treated totally different. It doesn't matter whether it's education, whether it's jobs, whether it's welfare, whether it's whatever it is. There is no definition to Aboriginality. And a lot of people claiming to be Aboriginal of this nation, they're not, because they can say it. That needs to change. As I said before, I'll say it again. When you recognise and respect us and say that we accept you as our equals in this nation, that we are all Australians together, I never hear it. And where is the protest that I hear of when the Aboriginal flag, not the Aboriginal flag, when the Australian flag is burnt in protest? Why should that be allowed?
Order.
That is not right. I've seen protests from Aboriginal people. I've seen the racism that's been thrown at me because I dare raise issues and I call for equality, so I'm supposed to be the racist of in this nation because I question things. That's not racism. Racism means that you believe your race to be superior to another. I have never, ever indicated that at all. I question, and all I have ever questioned is equality for all Australians. And I will stand by that. And I've been the one who's actually gone up to these communities, come back to see the Minister for the Aboriginal Affairs, and I've advocated for jobs at Uluru, Ayers Rock, for those people there. I've advocated for housing up at North Queensland, Bamaka. I've advocated for a lot of issues to do with Aboriginal people and the corruption that's going on in these communities, land councils, everything like that. I've advocated for these people. A lot of Aboriginals come to me.
Senator Hanson, the time for your contribution.
Thank you.
Australia is one of the richest countries in the world. We're the third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world. And in Saudi Arabia, when the price of oil goes up, they feel rich. And in Qatar, when the price of gas goes up, they feel rich. But we've so cooked our tax system that in Australia, the third biggest fossil fuel exporter in the world, when the price of oil and gas and coal go up, we feel poor. We call it an energy crisis. We call it a cost of living crisis. Now, in Norway, which is also a big fossil fuel exporter, they tax their fossil fuel industry and give their kids free university education. In Australia, we subsidise the fossil fuel industry. We give more than half of the gas we export away for free, and we charge our kids a fortune to go to uni.
If Australia in particular, if we can't control our northern shores and get imports coming in, if there's a Pacific War, for example, we'll go to fuel rationing, and it'll be a very different economy once that happens.
It'd be scary.
It'd be scary, yeah. We won't have been in that territory since World War II.
Do you think we would be vulnerable? I mean, like if we're on our knees.
Very, very vulnerable.
And like I've interviewed other past generals, etc., about Australia's weakness. And I was a big fan of Jim Nolan.
Yeah.
When he was a senator, not so much prior to that, but I used to follow him a lot when he was a senator. And his thinking back then, before he passed away, was about how vulnerable we are to our neighbours. If anybody decided to, sort of poke the nose in here, we're a country full of resources, even though we don't mine most of it. But we're full of resources. We're a very attractive place to come to, but we're completely undermanned both in terms of people joining the army,
Yeah.
or the military, but also, our equipment.
Yeah.
Hopeless.
Yeah.
We could not defend ourselves, could we?
No. For a short time, and then we wouldn't be able to. We don't have the kind of mass to be able to do it. And I think our entire military is, 70,000 roughly. Doesn't even fill the MCG. It's a tiny group. And we've got good equipment and good training, all that stuff, but it won't matter. Like, it relies on external support, so allies and whatnot. So my point has always been, like, why would you not have a fully self-sufficient defense force or the capability to protect yourself with no allies? Because we won't. If there is a major war, this happened in World War II when we lost Singapore. The US, the UK, all our major Northern Hemisphere allies might be totally committed to other battles.
Totally. Or like if something happens in Taiwan and the US is already stuck in the Middle East, they have to go and send a few. There's nothing left for us.
No. And to his credit, Kevin Rudd picked this up in the first white paper he did in 2009. He said we need to have a subfleet that's at least 12 submarines. We need to be able to protect shipping to our north.
You mean our shipping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now 15, 16 years later, we still don't have submarines. We're very vulnerable.
And but how would we get, even to get people to join the military? I mean, you're ex-military. Like, as I understand it, it's a bit like the police force. No one wants to join either one. How do we get people to become more keen or interested to join the military?
I think that the recruiting for it has been off the mark quite a bit. The way they present the force is this: come here for an opportunity, don't work too hard, you get your stuff paid for. We're a super diverse force. The traditional marketing they did was very service-orientated, adventure-orientated, and I think that works better. But also the economy, the broader economy has a big effect too. So once unemployment goes up a bit, military recruiting
kicks off.
In pretty
does it?
well. Yeah,
because I can get a job and get paid.
Definitely. And I watched in the army during certain economic boom periods, we just couldn't get people in the door.
Okay, how about one more question for the Prime Minister? Let me pick a beautiful person from Japan. A question for the Prime Minister. Go ahead. Yeah, sure. Oh, he doesn't believe he's beautiful.
Oh, okay.
He's sounding shy.
We're Japanese people. Of course, Japan and US are very good friends. But one question: why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. When we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? He's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right? Okay, one more for the Prime Minister.
Mr. President.
Are you good for the Prime Minister?
Yes,
go ahead for the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much. Japan's TJ Press. Japan's biggest concern is China. Now they are giving us export control and very harsh terms to criticize us. So will you plan to bring up relationship between Japan and China while you are there?
Yeah. Well, I'll be going to China very quickly, but I think I'd really like to have the Prime Minister talk about China because I know they have a little bit of an edgy relationship, and I'd just like to know where it stands, how you're doing with China. So, please.
日本はいつも中国に対してオープンです。会話はオープンにしています。それから冷静に対応しています。でとにかく米中関係も含めてですね、これが地域の安定、それから世界のサプライチェーン、 これに貢献するものであることを願っています。日本は常にオープンです。
So first of all, Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China. And also, second, we have been addressing our relations with China in a calm manner. And also speaking of the US-China relationship, my sincere hope is that the relationship will be something conducive for regional security and also ensuring the global supply chain in the world. Once again, I would like to reiterate that Japan has been consistently open to dialogue with China.
And I think we're going to have a great trip. The trip has been postponed for about a month and a half. It's been reset, and we look forward to it. And I'll be speaking Japan's praises when I'm in China with President Xi. But we're going to have some good talks today. And I think mostly about trade, because they want to do a lot of trade. They're a tremendous purchaser of our energy, our oil, gas from, in particular, Alaska. Because Alaska, believe it or not, is very close. It's much closer than any other source. It seems a little cold compared to, but it's just a short trip.
So that's something that we will talk after the press corps leaves.
We'll be discussing trade, and a lot of the talk will be about energy.
How did Donald Trump, after 10 years of saying one thing, do in the pivotal act of his presidency exactly the opposite? That's not just an academic question. It's not the beginning of a conspiracy theory about some shadowy lobby. It's the most important question we face, because this is not the first time the United States has entered into this kind of war against the wishes of its own population and in clear contravention of its own interests, against its interests. This isn't good for us. No one has made the case that it's good for us. And increasingly, as the days pass, it becomes obvious to everyone why it's not good for us. And if you don't believe that, then check the prices of food and fuel and everything you buy, because everything you buy is dependent on the price of energy and the production of fertilizer, both of which are affected almost immediately by the closure of the Straits of Hormuz. So we did this again. It's not exactly clear how or why we did this, but we need to find out. And there is great resistance to finding out. And you've noticed that in the last 36 hours since Joe Kent resigned as director of the National Counterterrorism Center, one of our top intel officials, because the attacks on him have prevented an honest conversation about what he's actually saying. And what he's saying is, and he says it clearly, and we're going to ask him about it directly in just a moment, Israel got us into this war. Its lobby in the United States pressured the president, and its prime minister in Israel told the president, we're going without you. Join us, because if you don't, your troops in the region, your interests in the region, your citizens in the region will all be at risk. You have no choice. They led the way.
A number of them began voicing anger at their attendance.
It's difficult to comprehend that just a few weeks ago, he was shaking hands with the Israeli president. He provided material support with, the Pine Gap base for intelligence, for strikes in Gaza. There's a war going on in Lebanon. It's a really heated moment.
The war in Lebanon, which Israel says is targeting Hezbollah, has resulted in the displacement of over 1 million people, including Wasim's loved ones.
Just right now, 5 minutes ago, I heard a message from my cousin, who is at the cemetery in Lebanon, because they've been ordered to flee their homes because the occupying state of Israel is bombing their land.
The Lebanese Muslim Association has defended its decision to allow the politicians into the space, saying, walking away from engagement has not advanced our community, nor has it changed outcomes overseas. It has not reduced Islamophobia here, and it has not strengthened our ability to influence decisions that affect us. Mr. Albanese later saying the reaction was due to labour laws against extremist organisations.
Some people don't like the fact that we've outlawed extremist organisations like Hizb ut-Tahrir.
So I would say that's false. It shows a lack of understanding of the Muslim community, a disregard for what people clearly voiced in the footage that has come out.
The war in the Middle East has cast a dark cloud over Eid celebrations for the community in Australia, with many spending the day worrying about the safety and livelihood of their families back home.
Imagine grinding for your whole life in one of the richest countries in the world, but still feeling broke. Welcome to Australia, where you save up for years and years, only to discover that a house now costs over $1 million, and all you get for that is a mingy bloody dog box. And if you can't buy a house, well, you're forced to compete in the rental Hunger Games, where the odds certainly aren't in your favour. So here's an uncomfortable question. In a country which has more land than pretty much anywhere else on earth, why can't young people afford to buy one small little piece of that country? And if that country is not willing to change the status quo, maybe the only solution left is to bloody well leave.
Well, lack of aggressiveness.
Yeah, some governments just don't have a good grasp of security and force and foreign policy. They don't kind of get the military. I feel a lot of politicians don't.
Well, some of the utterings in the last couple of days between the Prime Minister, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Minister for Defence, have been about, yes, we are going to send some support to, I think, Dubai or to the Emirates.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And but making it really clear that the only part they're going to play in all this is defence. They're defending environments. Like we're going to help defend the 24,000 Australians living in
both ways.
Yeah, both ways. Or the 2 or 3 guys or people who were on that submarine that sunk that frigate. They had no part in all this. They were just sort of, war tourists or something. I don't know.
I was like, well, they're on a nuclear submarine.
Yeah.
They're probably engaged in defensive operations. Yeah.
They'd have a role. They're not just sort of
they may
sitting
not
there.
push the button. But
but like the way that was described was that, they're just onlookers type of thing.
I find that frustrating because everyone knows that's not true. Anyone with common sense would say, well, that they're participating in it for sure. But they'd
have a role. They'd be doing something.
But obviously they're trying not to put Australia in a situation we maybe don't want to be in, where we're.
But they're not going to come down here, though, are they? Iran's
but this is the big dilemma is now we're partnered with the US. We've got these bases up north. We've got the submarines, AUKUS, and all that. If there is a major conflict, we're going to war with the Americans. That decision has been made for us.
And there'll be some politicians, some of which have risen up recently in polling, who are essentially appealing to vote for us and the world will stop. Or worse still, we'll go back to the Australia of the 1950s or 60s with the same population that looked like that. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And it's a fool's errand.
That was absolutely brutal.
I know.
The petrol price has gone up like 60 cents a litre.
I know.
It's like having a whole new tax on owning a car.
Hey guys! I think I'm going to hike interest rates again. What? Why? Slow down inflation. And this oil thing is a nightmare for inflation.
So the cost of having a car has gone up. In fact, the cost of everything has gone up. And your solution is to make it so that mortgages and rent are more expensive too.
Yeah. Hey, can I have a lift?
Get out.
Fine. Whinge. Oh. Oh.
Are you worried about anything like relative to what's going on right at the moment?
The only thing that I'm worried about is that I don't think people understand how at risk our country is. And and we're not doing the things that you need to do with a lot of lead time to improve it, because it takes so long to build military capabilities, fuel storage depots, defense infrastructure, whatever it is you need to be self-sufficient. It takes a long time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to do it.
And commitment.
Political commitment, all those things. And I just think people don't fully understand that we're at that point where we should be doing it. We might not need it, but better to have it and not need it.
So, a hard-hitting video, just some content from around the place to demonstrate that Australians just aren't willing to discover the truth. They are blindsided by all this politics that's going on. And I just want to assure you that I've never done politics. I've stood in courtrooms and competently put forward legal cases defined from your history, your constitution, and the lawful authority into that constitution, demonstrating that you are being managed by what's called an administrative trust. It's a foreign government being run out of Israel, just like the American government. Now, if you want to go back through history, both of these governments, the British Empire and the United States of America, defaulted in gold to the Rothschild. This is going back as early as 1863. You have been a manipulated society your whole entire existence. Your whole entire existence. All of these people speaking rhetoric, like Pauline Hanson, all these people speaking in ignorance of what they serve, like this former SAS soldier at the end of the video, don't seem to realise the financial game that Australia entered into the very moment it got its independence from Great Britain. The League of Nations is a debt game. A debt game. Australia took on its own debts independent of the motherland. And as soon as the Statute of Westminster was adopted, signed, 1931, Australia entered into financial agreements with the Rothschilds in the City of London. You were bankrupt. You have been manipulated for all of your oil, gold, silver. Agriculture, mining, forestries and fisheries are under the rules of usufruct, Hague Conventions. Now, moving forward, Albanese is saying to you that your country has been taken over and it will never return to what it formerly was. You have Pauline Hanson arguing about welcome to country because she's not willing to speak up about the Anzac lineage in your constitution and how Aboriginal sovereignty was independent and separate from that sovereignty. They have used the Aborigine for the last 40 years to undermine your sovereignty. And you can see Albo with the Islamists in the mosque, and they speak of joining Albo's will to return the land to the Aborigine. And the only way that technically could have been done was dissolving your constitution, aka the voice, which sought to replace the preamble to your constitution with Aboriginal sovereignty. So you wouldn't be under the blessing of Almighty God as defined by your ancestors. And when you look at the shrine, I'd like you to go and look at the words on the side of the building. Let all men know. It's very important when you look at the stone that says, greater love hath no man. Aboriginal sovereignty existed separate to the Constitution. They were their own sovereign countries, tribes, before 1967. And since 1967, you have been manipulated by Israel, who is manipulated by the Rothschild organisation. And when you look at the Bauer family that started the House of Rothschild, a banking cartel, they have clients that are hidden behind closed doors. When you look at the history of the Crown, you see a takeover by papism. This is all documented in Ewer's court case in 2020, where the New South Wales police accused me of being a terrorist and accused Ewer of being a terrorist for writing documentation to establish your foundations at international law in accordance with your constitution, so help you God. And if you look at King via Casement 1917, it's exactly the same thing. A man was accused of writing documentation against the Crown, but because you have no Crown and a Crown was put before the courts, the police sought to undermine that legal link to your constitution by accusing you of being a terrorist for putting documentation together that would see a country have a right of self-determination. Those police are controlled by Israel, as demonstrated in the British video in the last collection of videos that I put together. They do the bidding of external powers, which is why you were disarmed by John Howard in a false flag in Port Arthur. This is why your Defence Force has a real problem in that its military can't even fill the Melbourne Stadium. That's very small. And when all of your equipment is manipulated by America and Israel, you are left with the dregs and are unable to stand up in your de jure sovereign military defence. Now, according to the Bible, every father across the land was to pick up a weapon and defend the land. They would have made your military into the millions, but they can't even acquire more than 70,000 children to go and die for Israel's objectives. The police are starting to have problems with recruitment because the government of the day attempted to poison all of you in a lockdown scenario that involved the injection of a poison across the entire country. The police are unable to gather the numbers they require for public safety because they treat you like children. That's why I've added from hair to air. Go and look that up. It's the cartoon with Bugs Bunny that demonstrates that they came into your house, took over your entire estate, and started charging you for being belligerent children, for road safety, right? For public safety, right? An administrative trust is using you as debt fodder and may consider using you as war fodder. So they go from a burden of warfare called a financial burden, which becomes a cost of living crisis because all of your oil, all of your gas, all of your agriculture, all of your forestry fisheries get sent offshore in a Lima agreement to pay off debts that you got sucked into with a banking cartel in the City of London called the Rothschilds. That's going back to the 1930s. We can talk about the treason of declaring war on behalf of a foreign power in Great Britain. We can talk about the whole entire government serving a foreign crown and foreign king on an international stage. And we can talk about all of your blindness or sleep as to who you are in that international stage. After 15, 18 years of trying to snap you out of this stupid, your whole entire world is swept up in a debt game. A debt game. And you haven't realised this yet. Instead of defending your honour and your sovereignty, you argue with people like Pauline Hanson that never ever stand up for that sovereignty. Now these people, banking elite and banking cartels out of the City of London that have Charlie Boy under their thumb, don't give a crap about you. You are usable fodder for their entire world game. Agenda 2030 is a cleaning house for your insolvency. When you finally collapse, and like Bugs Bunny at the end, I haven't got the heart to tell him, but he's got no credit left. Trump starts a war, and I bet he's manipulated into that because all these American bases are destroyed. Now, if all your American bases are destroyed, you have no eyes to spy with across an entire region that used to be Trans-Arabian pipelines owned by Great Britain, who supported Palestine to be a self-governing colony, which got the same rights as Australia did in the Treaty of Versailles, except for one condition. A mandate for Palestine was supposed to nanny them into their own governance. Australia had grown up to a point where it was capable of that governance and didn't require help from the international community. That's when a Nakba started, and these Eastern European Jews invaded and occupied Palestine and have been in occupation of Palestine for the last 75 years, since 1946, 80 years, since they genocided a people and attacked the British to take over the land of Palestine after the international community recognised it as its own self-governance. You've been hoodwinked by Israel for the last 80 years and manipulated under the thumb of a banking cartel that fears your sovereign position under the blessing of Almighty God, under a king you are supposed to have in the king's domain, and under your constitution, that they continually try to manipulate out of you. Now, if Albo had have succeeded, he would have removed your Anzac lineage from your constitution and used Aborigine to undermine that constitution and take your rights out of it with God. This is very hard for you to comprehend, because for the last 20 years, all I have seen is watching you scramble for your own selfishness, because all you care about is the cost of living. You don't care about defending what your ancestors left for you. You don't consider that it's under administration by war powers that tell you very clearly through Albo's voice that you're kidding yourselves if you're ever going to get it back. They have immigrated Indians and Muslims and Islam into your country specifically to divide and conquer you from it, so that your politicians do nothing but argue that all day, every day, because Israel and banking cartels allowed that to occur, to waste your time on all of these petty little things instead of standing in the lineage of your Anzac, of your heritage, of Queen Victoria, and the realm that was forged out of that God into your land, wherein you are the naked owners of that constitution. And before 1967, when Americanized, British-controlled administration took over your entire country, smashed the Great Seal of the Commonwealth of Australia and installed the Great Seal of Australia, a debt game administrative trust organisation that has nothing to do with your forefathers. It's a banking cartel managing your Commonwealth of Australia through an insolvency. It's selling all your assets and fining you every day to revenue raise from you. And you haven't worked this out. Not in 20 years have you given a shit, until the point where you face total annihilation of who you are in your heritage. And there is no honour in serving an administrative trust and its Australian Defence Force, because it's not linked in any way, shape or form to the lineage defined in the preamble to your constitution. It is a banking administrative trust. You do the bidding of those banking powers and the clients behind those banking powers. You don't serve your people. You don't serve your government. You serve external banking wishes, which is why you participate in these global wars instead of hold the actual militarized defense of your country. You can't afford to buy all of these things. You can't afford to spend money on your personnel. And when the Australian government does do that, they liquidate your estate and put you into large sums of debt to participate with those outside powers who control them while they do it. This is why your defence force is always participating in peacekeeping, making sure all those other countries out there perform their International Monetary Fund agreements. Now, if you were smart, you'd realise You didn't win World War One. You were a British Empire that was divided into 54 separate countries. If you had have won World War One, you wouldn't have had to divide your power. You didn't win World War Two. In 1936, the Pope forced an abdication of the throne and brought the Vatican Bank into the City of London. You buy German cars, you buy Japanese cars, and they were considered central powers in Japan, Germany, and the Vatican. They were your enemy in World War II. So you lost World War I and became a weakened people, and then obligated to a debt that you were signed into the very moment you were given your sovereignty. So an administrative trust holds the allodial title of your land, the stone of remembrance, and the claim that surrounds it. And this is why they fear more than anything else in the world you standing up with a king in a king's domain and abandoning the Reserve Bank and recognizing they've been administering you for the last 100 years. It's your only way out of Agenda 2030. Militarily, you've been disarmed. John Howard took all your guns. That's the act of a traitor, someone that serves external interests in administrative powers that seeks to disarm all the people that could stand up against its administrative government. It has attacked you since 1946, telling you that you're a republic, believing you are their citizens. Now, we've gone through the annotated constitution, which clearly defines very clearly that citizens are of a republican model government, and you are a constitutional monarchy and therefore cannot be a democracy. Pauline Hanson does the bidding of that administrative trust because she is limited by her role in the Senate while under administration. It's why she will never bring up your Anzac or your lineage or your heritage. She speaks of equality to all those serfs, debt slaves, while parts of the government try to undermine you in an act of treason to keep you in administration and never ever let you get out of it. This is why the Reserve Bank is the formed currency across your land, and no government department will use gold or silver, because that allows you to get out of debt. The RBA is a liability and keeps you in debt in perpetuum. It is a fraud upon all of you by not allowing, never allowing you to use your constitutional money in the Currency Act. Now, I implore you to go and look at Schedule 1 of the Currency Act and tell me, is $50 as defined at law equal to $50 of RBA currency, while the RBA uses rates to manipulate you out of spending to bring down inflation? Monetary policy is manipulation of all of you in sweat labor to pay off your assets. You never ever get out of debt. That is a form of slavery. And according to the Hague Conventions, they are obligated to maintain the land under which they have use of the fruits. That would be considered a fraud according to law. Now, once you realise this allodial title exists across a constitution, you have a legal claim that supersedes any voice. You have a legal claim that supersedes any push for a republic. You have a legal claim that supersedes the rhetoric of Pauline Hanson constantly manipulating and lying to you to get an edge up in an administration when you should be removing that administration completely in a right of self-determination. They use the Aborigine and manipulate the Aborigine financially, as you heard with Pauline Hanson talking about many of these Aborigine around the country in total disagreement with always was, always will be, because they recognise their sovereign right as tribes independent of the Constitution before 1967. This is why an umbrella was put up on the lawn of Parliament House before the new Parliament was installed up the hill. They were worried about their land claims to their sovereign tribal people, separate to the Constitution. American Zionist interests moved in while manipulating the British Crown while under the thumb of Papism, and took their land and used it as a forward base for their military operations across the oceanic rim. And this is what the SAS soldier is talking about at the end. What I'm starting to realise is this. You are so nannied into a low down position that you're incapable of opening your mind to being a family at common law. A family with a coat of arms and gold and silver wealth in your own household, your own treasury, while the treasury of your country remains empty and the gold that you are supposed to own is shipped off to London as surety for your loans with a banking cartel that never lets you use gold and silver to pay your way out of debt and has manipulated your economy since 1947 and the full demise of the gold and silver in circulation as a currency in your country since 1965. Once you start to realise the problem you find yourselves in, you may start to understand that an oath of allegiance needs to be taken to remove your pledge to the government of the day as an administrative state. And God said that you needed to be of clean hands to return back to that. That meant understanding what a moneylender does and how it puts you under their thumb. Now, I've never owned a credit card. I keep getting asked at Woolworths if I have one of their flybuysy type full-on spy on you, sell all your data cards so that you can get extra couple of dollars at the register. I never saw that couple of dollars as being worth selling my entire identity to a banking cartel for, so they could spy on all my purchases, so they could work out who I am for their marketing. So as a last video, I'll just show you something that's been found out about this child identification push. It's for marketing companies to know whether you're a bot or real, so they can push their marketing and follow you with your Woolworths and Coles and JB Hi-Fi and EB Games and all these other companies that decided to put these cards in play so they could sell your data for a profit. And the government never stopped Woolworths, right? And this negates the fact that these people push their own products on you with their home brand, putting all your companies out of business, wrapping everything in plastic and giving you a sodden paper bag that collapses before you get to your car, and blaming you because you wanted a plastic bag when all their products are wrapped in plastic. She's dead! Wrapped in plastic! Twin Peaks. You're dead! Wrapped in plastic! And the government, Albo, Scott Morrison, Liberal, Labor, Greens, One Nation, they never ever speak up about it because banking administrators have a Lima agreement to import all your B-grade products and export all your A-grade products. And then they talk about trade across the Pacific Rim, protecting all those ships bringing in all those crappy products while they can't buy oil. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that Albo's in a position where he can't buy oil. I have a sneaking suspicion that America's in $40 trillion debt, adding $1 billion a day in war, and can't buy oil. So they need to go to war for it. Your governments have opened you up to facing World War III. Your governments are a target from Iran, Russia, North Korea, who are all non-Reserve Bank, Rothschilds-controlled International Monetary Fund banking cartels coming out of places like the City of London or Washington, DC. Now, have a look at this video about how these banking cartels want to control your use of the internet by pushing age verification through your devices so they can target your children with more advertising. And then after that, I'll show you what I bought for an office.
So a random Reddit user just exposed a massive lobbying campaign that's pushing for age verification laws, and you'll never guess who's behind it. See, the user named OK Lingonberry dropped an entire investigation where he dug through networks of political funding and government databases to see who's been lobbying Congress to pass all these online age verification bills. And after analyzing over $2 billion in political funding, he found that Facebook and Meta spent over $26 million last year lobbying politicians across 45 different states, all to implement ID checks not just at the operating system level, which could destroy open source projects like Linux, but also pushing the App Store Accountability Act, which would require age verification before you could even download apps on your phone. And if you actually read the proposals, it's pretty clear that this isn't ID checks in order to access restricted content. No, it's a persistent age broadcasting service that every installed application can access, all under the guise of protecting the kids, which is crazy because Lingonberry also found that Meta was secretly funding a child safety advocacy group called the Digital Childhood Alliance, which have also been lobbying politicians to pass the exact same legislations. And the most popular theory as to why Meta's doing this is because they got rich by selling your data to advertisers. But since the internet is now flooded with so many AI bots generating fake data, well, advertisers now want to verify that they're marketing to actual humans that perform an age check.
So this is what I bought. I got very, very, very cheap, considering the market. It's a Mitsubishi Rosa 2006. It's in very good condition. Mechanically it needs quite a bit of work. Probably need to spend like $5 grand on it mechanically. But you can see I've removed. This is open. I don't think it is. It is. Water tank for the trailer. I've put a flat floor in where this was all the raised floor. Single seats down this side, double seats down that side. And now we've got a flat floor. I just need one more plank of timber up that end so that it sits on the joists going across. And we slowly get there. The computer has a motherboard problem, so I'm looking for a DDR4 motherboard if anybody can find one for me. Needs to have 4 slots of RAM and a minimum of 4 hard drive inputs, as well as an NVMe input. But that's where we're at. Removed the ceiling, all foam across the ceiling. This used to be a touring bus that was used as a school bus because it had microphone inputs in the middle and at the front for a person to be able to talk to all the people in the bus. So it would have been a touring bus. That's why it's got foam all through the roof. It was used as a school bus. Alright, this has taken a couple of weeks. But this is all the weight and stuff that I've removed. But these weigh a ton. So all this is scrap metal and a bit of rubbish here, but mostly scrap metal that I intend to take to the metal recyclers and get some cash back. Some brackets there that I might use. So I've removed, this is the air conditioning shroud, but full aircon unit if anybody wants to buy it. It's 24 volt. It'll need an electronic compressor because the other one ran off the fan belt on the motor. Condenser unit, head unit, electrics, computer and fuses, wiring. I've got all the plugs for the wiring, the fans for the condenser, all the pipes that run through it. I'm willing to sell that as a whole unit. All you need is 24 volt solar and an electric compressor, and that'll run perfectly in a container or something like that. It's too big to run. It only runs when the motor's running, so it's kind of pointless. Some heater units if anybody's interested. This is all the weight that I've removed. 25 seats from my new office. This is where the condenser unit for the aircon used to be. And I'm thinking about putting a long-range fuel tank in here because the other fuel tank's right there with the filler hole here. So if I can get that filler to fill 2 tanks, this will be a super long-range 2,000 kilometre range tank. So it needs a little bit of work. School bus, flashing lights front and back. It's in reasonably good nick for a 20-year-old bus. It's 20 years old and they can't use them after 20 years in Queensland. They have to get a roadworthy every 6 months, so it's reasonably good. It needs front shocks, it needs rear shocks. Trying to think what else it needed. It's got a bent fuel tank, so it needs a replacement fuel tank. And it needs a service. Probably need the injectors to be cleaned. But there you go. That's a new office. So as we close off, what do I think? I think Australians are actually too dumb, retarded up here, slow, mentally incapable, physically incapable of returning back to what they are and having one up on Albo and The Voice, Liberals and the Republic, Pauline Hanson and her One Nation, when Aborigine were sovereign tribes. See, the Kookaburras agree. They're laughing at it all. So what do I think? I think you're lost at Holy See, incapable of seeing the foundations that your Anzac left for you, and they're incapable of defending them. I think you're plebs. I think you're slaves to the banking cartels. I think you rely on your servants to fix it instead of mastering your servants and charging them with criminal offences. I think you're incapable of standing in courtrooms. I think you speak a whole bunch of nonsense because you grab stuff from everywhere trying to get out of shit instead of fully comprehending the situation you find yourselves in as countrymen. I think you're so selfish you rip each other off trying to get ahead, when if you work together, you'd get ahead together. I think you rely on outside powers. I think you're subordinate to your public servants. I think that treating you as members of the public has taken your living in the private away from you. I think you're too stupid to realise what the private is, because you've lost any sense of common law and the family estate and how you are supposed to manage your house as a unit. I think you took at liberty the right to vote, and women's lib and all this stuff was designed to manipulate you out of being those families. I think you're incapable of demanding of your public servants that they return your defences to you. I think you're incapable of seeing any of this. I think you'll send your children off to die for a foreign administrator in the Australian Defence Force. I think they won't give a shit about you when you get home, like they haven't done since 1967 when you boys came home from the Vietnam War. I think they'll charge you with war crimes if you don't follow international laws and do the bidding of those dark side in the Australian Defence Force, those commissioned officers that serve something foreign to your lineage, something foreign to your constitution at law. I think you're incapable of recognising what I did is at law and you all think it's politics. I think you're all incapable of standing up and being united for an oath of allegiance defined at international law and upholding and defending that. I think you're totally incapable as a country of surviving through World War III. I think you'll collapse and become the 51st state of the United States. I think the Crown in London will collapse as the pedophilic nature that it is in Charlie Boy and his best mate Jimmy Savile, and Prince Andrew and his Epstein links, and Queen Elizabeth II and her accusations of eating children and burying children in Canada. They all link together, don't they? And we've demonstrated that Trump's a lying piece of shit that's just manipulated Americans to try and save his family, when his family participated in crypto coin scams and business scams over the last 10 to 15 years. I think you're incapable of realising that "you're fired" now applies to the man who said those words on American television until he realised he wasn't being paid enough. He looked at Tara Banks and said, "I want that kind of money," and they axed his television show. So he wrote books and then decided, "I'll go for the presidency knowing that I won't get it, and I'll sell a lot of books." This man has manipulated the markets in America to the advantage of him and the families around him. The intelligence community has had enough of his lies and his willful obedience to Israel. I think you walk down a line where Israeli population has used the Kabbalah and mind manipulated you out of your own gods. Judges 2:12, you went serving all the gods around you instead of honouring the lineage and where you came from. You went whoring after all these other ideologies and lost who you are. And at this point in time, after warning you for 20 years about discovering half of this stuff in a council server, you've mocked it, berated it, and now face the entire consequences of not defending it. I think you've been manipulated by Liberal, Labor, the Greens, One Nation, the National Party, who have all sought to undermine your constitution because they're under the thumb, at the peril of their own lives, of a foreign war machine that's got you under administration and holding you all as debt fodder to an administrative trust. I think you don't realise what render unto Caesar actually means, and I think you forgot the second part of render unto God what is God's. I think you've allowed them to manipulate your families out of all of your wealth and drive you into sweat labour to have any wealth, wherein you don't trade in gold and silver across your land, so therefore have no chance of returning from that debt as a country. You have every opportunity to stand up and realise and push it into your courtrooms and really drive them to understand that as a people you have a right of self-determination. What they do is fraud, and you could bring that before a judge very easily. But you're uneducated and down in the pleb level, where you just accept things that come out of your politicians' mouths and therefore became the servants of your servants. There are a lot of things for you to think about here. After a very long time of trying to educate you after working for a government, and you mock all the education and knowledge that came out of working in an IT server room with access to everyone's account. I mean, there are a lot of things that I could show you about the deplorable actions of a council, destroying records, being sued by builders, not replacing equipment, having equipment crash, causing headaches across the entire community because they didn't have access to things like cemetery records, dog registrations, building plans, and more. But you never ever consider that because your little mind... Now, I've watched some real bogan type idiots try and push this through a court and berate me at the same time when it is discovered that they're low-caste, Centrelink-driven bogans. Well, you can't do that to me. Well, you never stood up in your own capacity of family and held gold and silver and pushed common law at the judge because you don't know what it is. Oh, I'm a common law sheriff. But you're a sovereign citizen, they said. Do you see now? You've been pushed around by a government that has manipulated you into subordination of that government instead of being the men of the land who have a mastery over those public servants. And the reason for it is the Reserve Bank of Australia. You wholly believed that was your God. For the last 75 to 80 years, did you believe that borrowed money was your God? And you forgot your gods, the gods of your fathers, while you went whoring after all these other gods. Israel, Islam, the Vatican, America, right? And then you all took the party line of hating the Russians, the Chinese, even though they're your largest trading partners. So your mind manipulated out of your world, and your world is about to collapse. So lastly, I run all of this off donations, and I'm quite happy to keep educating you about what I've discovered and the state of affairs of your country. And all of your donations keep this going. Like, so drop some coins in the bank, send a silver coin. Thank you to William for the silver coin this week that was sent via post. Eleanor, I've got to set the printer up, and now you've seen why. There's been a lot of work that's been going on over the last 3 weeks. But once that printer's set up again, be able to sell proper prints. It's a 24-inch bed, so it's a large format printer for printing art gallery prints. So I'll endeavour to get that to you as soon as possible, and I'll chuck in a little gift for being late. There's crypto options, there's all these things there. They all support me to keep going. And once I'm set up with the computer, unfortunately need to buy a new motherboard. Everything else seems to work okay. It's the power circuit in the motherboard that's not allowing it to power up every time. Once all that's sorted, I'll be able to make some more t-shirts, which I've been endeavouring to do. I've got a list of ideas there to sit down and draw up and make some more print for front and back of some t-shirts. And that's where we're at. I need to put a bit of money into that bus to make it roadworthy again. And obviously now I need to start looking at cabinet making the interior so that I have a desk and some drawers, and to get it registered I need to put a sink in it and some cooking equipment, and that way it can be registered as a caravan type thing. But it's in pretty good condition. It came up. I sold silver for $157 an ounce and hit the market at the very, very peak. And then about 3 hours later, it started to fall. So I maximized on my spending and got that bus very, very cheap. Cheaper than anything else on the market by 50% easily. It does need mechanical work, but I'm capable of doing that myself. Computer needs fixing, but I'm capable of doing that myself. I have all the solar and solar panels and everything to run that entire bus, separate of the grid. So everything is in motion. It's going to take many more weeks before we get to that point of turning an air conditioner on and having a desk to sit at. And all your donations help working towards that. So please contribute, please buy a shirt, please have a look at the situation that I've enlightened you to. Please start to work together. I see in the comments we've started to work out that the Bible actually tells you to do something. And a lot of you have started to work that out. But a lot of you are lagging behind, like seriously lagging behind. Those that have started to work it out should start to help those that are working it out. And then where 2 or 3 stand, God is with you. What it meant was you see it together and then you cannot deny it, and then you'll defend it together instead of believing in the Australian government administration and its servants like Pauline Hanson are going to fix your poverty and your links to Israel and your manipulation by foreign and external interests. So my last part of the video is help out. Drop in some donations, have a look around, look at what I'm saying, share it with your neighbours and look at the things that I've put before you, and you start to come to this undeniable position that what I tried to bring to light since 2012 is actually the truth. The King's Domain is a real thing. An allodial title claim is a real thing. The right of self-determination to remove yourselves from administration is a real thing. Government using the Aborigine and manipulating them out of their sovereignty to undermine your sovereignty in your constitution is a real thing. You all saw The Voice and the debacle of putting a referendum with no actual word changing to your constitution, allowing them to undermine your Anzac, actually occurred. You see the Liberal National Party pushing their Republican ideologies because they're an administrator government or democracy pushed on your constitutional monarchy position is a real thing. And now that you start to understand the reality of all of these things, when we unite and help each other out, we will grow and grow up as a country out of the nappies that you're all in, whining and having tantrums all over the place. Maybe instead you could be those families that demand to be armed so that you can defend yourselves on a world stage after people like John Howard committed an act of treachery against you by removing your ability to defend from you. So we close up now by saying thank you to everybody that does participate and ask you to continue to participate. And then all you new members out there, help them learn, help them see with their eyes the reality of the situation you find yourselves in, instead of being manipulated by your servants into serving a moneylender in your temple.